All right.
Start us off, Carter.
Ho ho! Way past cool! Hey everybody, Sonic the Hedgehog here, and welcome to the official Sonic the Hedgehog podcast. Brought to you by Chili Dogs! Whoa! And I'm Tails. Hey guys, check out this cool equation I've made. And I'm Amy. How are ya? And I'm Shadow. I kind of sound like Clint Eastwood right now, actually. And I'm Knuckles. And because they've explicitly in the last couple games and films coded Knuckles as a black character, Carter is doing this voice as to not get in trouble. Anyway, this is Carter and Kevin Explain Football. I'm Carter.
I'm deaf. I had you way maxed out on the beginning of that bit. For sure.
Why would you do... You know there's a non-0% chance I'm going to do like a...
Yeah, and it's on me.
Case in point, I just heard the echo.
It's on me. But there's, sometimes there's times where you just kind of do like a real soft throw, especially on your out. Well, granted, that's typically during your outros where you're just like,
yes.
And as the
where
season
I do
changed, it's more of poetry
yes.
as opposed to
where I go for I don't
bricks.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen the film Fantastic Mr. Fox, but
I have.
The bit at the beginning is he writes a newspaper column when he stops poaching. That's the kind of energy I'm going for. His ramblings about Whack-Bat and the changing of the seasons. That's kind of my oeuvre for the outros. But incidentally, I did realize, because I keep doing that riff on Disney Desk, I realize I'm not doing the right riff anymore because they change it for the movie.
Yes.
The original Broadway version of Defying Gravity is ah, but in this one is like ah, like it has like 3 or 4 little
there's
quips and whips. Yeah, there's extra. There's just a little extra cheese on the cracker, if you will. Which is funny because Stephen Schwartz was always a big grumpus about actors on stage, whenever they would, because there's regional performances of it, there's school performances, they sell out the book, that's how theater works, and he would be a very big stick in the mud for people on tour or people in the international casts changing it. It's you can only do it this way, and on one hand, that is pretty standard with a lot of Broadway shows in terms of no, the book is a book. You're not allowed to change the book because then you're doing your own thing and it can create problems. But it's well, that's that's improvisational. I don't know, but it's not important. We're at the end. We're at the damn near end of the football season. Boils and ghouls. That's a Halloween reference. Peppermints and sugar cookies. Yeah, fuck it, whatever. I'm losing my goddamn mind. There's too much football, people. I'm the fucking multiverse of madness here, just falling through shit. I was paint at one point. Holy shit, people. That's how my
descended.
Yeah, that's kind of how therapy goes. Where I'm it hasn't been that bad, and then I just start talking. But yes. Anyway, we just got through week 16. We are in the middle of week 17. One of the reasons why this episode is in a weird middle point between the weeks is because if you look, ESPN has laid it out perfectly. Week 16 was December 18th through December 24th, and week 17 was December 25th through the 31st. Literally, both weeks have been stitched together in some kind of horrible Frankenstein's monster scenario, and it's slowly driven us mad.
Oh, it's... You know what, Carter? Because it's driven us mad, Let's switch things up. We're starting with the lows, because this is the perfect segue into
fuck it.
My one major point, and then as opposed to my extra point, that was just kind of for content.
Yes.
Too much football.
Yes. Carter has been violently radicalized against NFL scheduling. Fuck Roger Goodell.
As much as I love football, I love recording this show. I love watching the games, but oh god, I think I did the math last week over the span of 14 days. I think from the 19th, or was it from the 19th to the, I think technically the 31st. There is only 1, 2, 3 days without football.
And that's how they get it's literally like a it's a drug dealer, man. They get you to do it 6 out of the 7 days, and the one day you don't have it, you're suddenly you're itching, man.
It's oh, what game
I'm
now?
Where's the football?
But
there's no college football on even.
It's just it's getting to a point where it's just too much football, and like the game quality. I don't know if it's just the amount of games at the times. I feel like the game quality has just dropped as well for most games.
Yes. In particular, the Saturday games that they pushed through for the sake of, like, a part of it is just I cannot abide by this stupid, like, we have to have games Saturday so we can have them play on Christmas because it's dangerous otherwise to only have them get 4 days of rest. 5 days, that's fine. Surely the body can heal that quickly if you have a concussion.
I understand that. I was like, all right, and I respected that part of the scheduling. I kind of liked it. I'm gonna use the term respected though, where you play on that Saturday, and then you just switch up the matchups to play on the following Wednesday. I respect that enough of, like, all right, they clearly are doing some form of due diligence here with this buffoonery.
See, if you were going from Saturday to Saturday or Sunday to Sunday, I would love that. I love this sort of key party-esque energy of, like, we're mixing them up. We're just seeing how all these teams match up with each other.
Yeah.
But when you do it just to do this cynical, jaded, like, we need to take over, we're occupying Christmas, move over NBA.
Also,
it's lame and gross.
Exclusively on Netflix. Exclusively.
Yes. Well, you know what? Someone finally pointed out, you know why they did that? One, because Netflix offered them a lot of money. But the other reason is because it's different from, like, a cable package. Because if it's on the NFL Network or if it's on NBC, you can just flip between that and basketball. But that's not as easy on Netflix. No. And a lot of older people aren't going to take the time to be like, I have to press this button, then this button, then this button. So basketball is getting boxed out. And it's it's just so insidious. And the worst part is they know it works. Because at the end of the day, those games, the NFL games, averaged 24 million viewers. The problem with basketball, and basketball actually did really well this Christmas. It had its highest view count in, like, forever. Genuinely. Like, but you know how high it was? 9 million, and then 10 million for the LeBron Curry game, which also, like, I don't know, and I'm not going to get into it here because it's a different sport, and, like, I'll keep trying to push the basketball boulder up a hill, but, like, yeah, the NBA is really freaking out about viewership right now, and the obvious answer is they need to shorten the season because the regular season is kind of pointless at this point, but, like, yeah, no, they're having a problem where it's, like, it's the best, the most people, like, LeBron and Curry still get the most butts in seats, but that's come at the cost of developing the new stars for forever. And then on top of, I mean, the main problem is Zion Williamson was supposed to be, like, this cool, lovable star, fun guy, explosive athlete, big smile on his face all the time. But he can't stay in shape. He's got some drama with a porn star, and also he's hurt all the time. And the porn star thing is weirdly relevant to the whole thing. I don't know what to tell you. But yes.
Anyway, it's too much.
The point is, it worked. That's the infuriating part. And it's like,
they wouldn't have.
And I'm like, fuck me for.
This is one of those things that they would not have done if they didn't know it would work. They've had 2 seasons of doing the whole streaming on Prime and, like, Twitch data to collect, and that's how they knew it would work. Netflix offered them a big amount of money because they're starting to get more and more into live shows, live events. Fucking the WWE is gonna start broadcasting 3 nights of wrestling, or 3 hours of wrestling, I think, every Monday night. Monday Night Raw is officially moving to Netflix to be shown live on Netflix.
And I can kind of talk from the entertainment media side of it. A part of it is, like, the game has finally been given up on streaming. So much of streaming was, like, trying to control. Part of it was like studios and companies chasing Silicon Valley and chasing the stock market. Netflix was able to get these huge stock numbers because they were the only game in town. It's like, hey, no one else can do this. This is the one place you can get it for $7 a month. You can get all of this just on your computer.
I remember the, like, super early days of Netflix and Hulu too, where Hulu was free for everybody.
Yes.
And it was just, like, you had to watch ads, but it was free for everybody. And, like, no account needed and stuff. You just needed a Wi-Fi connection and maybe the app.
And, like, the obsession for them was less the monetization of the thing and more just, like, chasing the stock price. Yeah. Highest stock price means most value. And, that worked for all the executives who were able to cash out. But then at some point, all of these people who have big shares in this company and effectively have a say are like, wait a minute, how are we actually making money from this? So you quietly see, like, Disney's been a big one of, like, for all the heat they've gotten for deleting, canceling their Star Wars shows, it's like they're not canceling. They were going to cancel them no matter what, regardless of quality, regardless of like how much viewership they got, because it's not profitable to spend $200 million on a Star Wars series that like 90% of the people who are paying for Disney Plus would have been getting Disney Plus anyway. So yeah, now Netflix is finally like, all right, we're going to be one of the few games in town still, but we need to get ad revenue. And we'll talk about the actual games themselves later. But I was really disappointed with their presentation. It really feels like they really put the money on Beyonce.
I think they did. I refused to watch I actually didn't watch a single Christmas game this year. Because I was slightly different Christmas schedule than previous years, but also it's just like it's like while the matchups interested me to some capacity, I was just not like it was just too much. It was too much football. It was in the middle of too much football.
Yeah. And like ultimately this ties into what I've been talking about for a while. Basically the entire existence of this show is like the NFL has inadvertently become the perfect metaphor for like our modern, like this bubble that's been building up. It started before COVID, but COVID really escalated it of just like, again, chasing more. We have to have more. The stock price will only go up if we keep expanding. And at some point, there's a finite amount of tickets you can sell. There's a finite amount of viewers you can get to tune in. Like the fact that they were able to get the Taylor Swift audience is a fucking miracle. That was a Hail Mary pass that inexplicably worked. Like at some point, you just run out of space. And like COVID should have been that bubble bursting and everything kind of factory resetting. But the NFL is like, nope, we're going to keep our head down and keep on plowing through. And every company kind of followed suit. And this is like the eldritch blobous mess that it leads to, where we literally have a football game basically every day from a week before Christmas to a week after Christmas. And I'm going fucking bananas. And I've had I've broken my diet and I feel weird.
It's too much in such a short period of time. Like if they did like almost a full week of football, like kind of like they did with Thanksgiving. Like there were Sunday games, Monday games, like a bunch of Thursday games, a Friday game, and then like the Sunday games again, where it's just like, all right, this is a lot of football, but it's given to you at 1 week, and then the week before was normal, the week after was normal, and while the matchups weren't all the best that week, it was still like a lot more manageable. This is just the brink of insanity with football, because it's like I know there's football to watch every single night, but that also means like I can't catch up on my other shows, and I can't just take a second to just play a video game and stuff if I want to like stay on top of each game.
Right. Yeah, it just again, it's gross in terms of just content glut. It turns the NFL even more into just like content sludge, like you'd get on YouTube. It's rude to tradition of like, no, this is basketball's time. You got to respect like the month. Baseball. It's lucky that nothing else is around July, so it gets 4th of July. Like there's certain rules you just have to respect. Like it's the unspoken. It's like mob rules where you just have certain codes and conducts that you got to follow, or else you're going to end up with a horse head in your bed.
It literally, it's like straight up going back into the history of professional wrestling, like the 70s, early 80s and stuff, before Vince McMahon Jr. took over, where it was everyone had their territories and like their hard cutoff lines. You did not cross the boundary lines without permission. You did not steal other stars. And then Vince McMahon was the NFL, where he just goes, I mean, there's no contract about this. This is just an unspoken rule. And they talk about it in the first episode of the documentary. It's actually very interesting. But it's like, and his dad's getting messages about, it's like, you got to get Vinny in line.
Right. But the problem is, it's like, they didn't get Vinny in line. That's how we've gotten to the paradigm we have now, for good or for ill. And it's like, the NFL got very close to giving Roger Goodell the boot after that Ray Rice fiasco, but they ended up putting their heads down and keep going through it. And it's like, clearly the NBA and the MLB can't compete. And let's just rule hockey outright. Like, there is nothing that can stop the NFL other than, like, economic collapse. Or bird flu, but I don't. Despite what some people think, I don't want that to happen.
How familiar are you with the show The Office?
Well, my big ex had me watch literally every single episode, so yeah, I'm pretty versed. And I did watch Office Ladies. I'm a bit agog they're keeping it going, but
Yeah.
it's over.
So
You covered the episodes. Just retire. It's okay. You
yeah.
have other work.
So they do. There's this one real niche scene in one of the like middle of the pack seasons where
Mm.
they were talking about how they all needed to get together to get rid of the like construction workers from parking in their spots, and they called a
Yes.
meeting
They
for
have to
the
call the
five
different
family. They
families.
called it the five families. That's literally it. You need like if in order to like get the NFL to like cut this shit out, you need to buffer, like you need the NBA, MLB, NHL, and like NCAA to all just hunker down and be we like we need to fucking talk. We need to like negotiate some form of deals
Right.
to prevent this shit from happening.
Yeah, there has to be some kind of like
Like,
American Sports Association.
yeah. Like if like the N like in the deal, if the NBA was just like, all right, there cannot like Christmas is ours. We get Christmas. Like you have to like unless if it is on like a Sunday, no football on Christmas. Like
Mm.
outside of your like normally scheduled week. Excuse me. And like during like the what's it called World Series is in the middle of like the NFL season, and it's just like, hey, we need like we'll avoid Sundays. We'll make Sundays travel days for the schedule, but like
Right.
we need you to stay clear. Like put on some lower tier games on like Monday and stuff.
Hmm. And the football stuff is especially stunk lately because also the college football discourse has been wiggity wiggity fucking garbage.
Yeah.
Um, you thought I was going to do fun alliteration there. Nope, not this time. I'm mad. It's a combination of like, look, I wanted Ashton Genty to win the Heisman too. I think it would have been cool to have a running back win the Heisman because it hasn't happened in a bit. But at the end of the day, the people dismissing Travis Hunter because he's like so careful about his brand, it's like, no, no, it's really fucking hard to play two positions. It's hard to play offense and defense. If like again, every single person who's at a major school in college football was probably the best player at their high school and probably capable of doing it in the high school. But they don't do it in the next level because it's really fucking hard. We have to acknowledge that. I'm sorry. That deserves an award. Like, Genty got the best running back award. He's fine. He's going to get drafted high. He'll be fine. But also, like, you know, they expanded the college football playoff to, what is it, 14 or 12? I don't even remember. But, like, yeah, and the first round of games were kind of stinky. Like, the lower ranked teams were very just ill-equipped for their matchups. And Kirk Herbstreit was basically like, we need to just not factor in wins. We have to think about like prestige and stuff. And basically, all these people are like, we should have just let Alabama in. They should have been in over undefeated teams. And it's like, God, Alabama doesn't get its way one fucking time. And we have to make a whole, like, fucking national. Like, we've had more discourse about that than, like, January 6th. Like, we put more effort into, like, hearings over this than people storming the goddamn Capitol. Like, fuck, man. Who cares? Like, again, this was always going to happen when you expand it. Like, expand it to 60. Fuck it. Nothing matters. Just keep adding more. Just keep adding more and more and more. Certainly, it's not going to cause a big old collapse.
Damn boy.
Yep,
Let's
you're right.
switch points.
Sydney doesn't let me get political on Disney Desk anymore. The dog's got to get off the leash at some point.
I'll let
Yeah,
you get
well, just you
political,
wait.
sweetie.
The High School Musical episode, I'm gonna go nuts. Anyway,
Curious. I'm so curious. Anyway, let's diet down a little bit. Pittsburgh and Houston
all
remind
right.
us of the playoff tiers.
Yeah, so it is funny because like it's something we've talked about, like the idea of like, and this isn't an idea original to us, but we talked about like the tiers. Who are the
Yes.
real contenders? Who are spunky teams who are capable of
Yes.
winning a playoff game, but just really don't have the top end talent to get all
Yeah.
the way there? And like, you know, this year has been interesting because we came into the year being like, well, it's the big three. It's Bills, Chiefs, Ravens.
Yes.
And then Pittsburgh's looking really spunky. And, you know, the Texans were like, can they get up to that
Yeah.
tier? And
They
because
were.
of this swinger key part,
Yeah, they were
go
hanging out
ahead.
at the. I was gonna say they were like. I think we kind of described it a little differently, but the old NFL bar back
Oh,
in the
yes, we haven't used this in a while.
draft area where you have Kansas City, you have Buffalo, you have Pittsburgh, all hanging behind the velvet rope for the VIP area. That was pretty clear. And
Hmm.
despite even Baltimore's record for the majority of the season, they were still hanging out behind the velvet rope. And you have then you have the Texans and you have Pittsburgh, and at least for the AFC, and they're just kind of lurking outside. And it's like a matter of if they're waiting for a bouncer to slip up enough to get behind and not get caught and
Hmm.
brought back out, because that's where they were hovering.
Yeah,
But
and Pittsburgh really was that because they led the division for several
yeah,
weeks.
they were holding their own for a good majority of the season, and now there's a
Meanwhile, the
little bit of
Texans were kind of, yeah.
yeah. Texans are hitting their sophomore slump of C.J. Stroud, which not entirely his fault.
Hmm.
I would say. I'm not saying he's not a
Yeah.
non-factor, but I'm saying it's not entirely his fault. It doesn't help that Stephon Diggs is out for the season. Tank Dell's leg is fucking exploded.
Yes. We can jest at like severe NFL injuries because we're just two guys sitting around drinking beer and vibing.
Yeah.
But yes, so the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Houston Texans 27-19, and I'm going to be honest, the score does not indicate how like
It
I don't want to say non-competitive, but it really didn't feel that competitive. Um,
yeah.
and Tank Dell, while having one of the best games of his season, on a touchdown, his knee rolls up, pops, he tears ACL, MCL, possibly another one if I'm remembering correctly, and dislocates his knee, which is the serious. Like that's the one you need to go to the hospital immediately for
Yeah.
because once that knee is loose, veins can pop, things can tear. Like a lot of blood can be where blood is not supposed to be inside your body. A genuinely very scary moment, and kind of unfortunately indicative of just a year that has not gone the way the Texans were hoping. They have won their division; they will get to go to the playoffs, but it really
I'm
just feels like they don't have the dogs this year.
I'm getting last year's Eagles vibes from them, where
Yes, like
they have a hot start. They're looking good.
mm,
Everyone's like they did way better than expected the previous season. And we wind down to December and shit just hits the fan.
right. But I feel like the difference is, and maybe it's just a difference in fan bases, is the Eagles. It felt angry. It felt like everyone
Oh,
wanted to kill each
yeah.
other.
No,
Everyone was at each other's throats.
that is how the Eagles fans work though.
I cannot get over that even before, literally hours before that Tampa Bay playoff game, they dropped the like, oh, well, now that it's all over, we should tell you about Nick Sirianni and how Jalen Hurts doesn't like him.
Yeah.
Even before they were so certain the game was going to be an L, they're like, let's just get it out early. Let's just get it
Let's
on the presses.
send his home.
Whereas the Texans just feel sadder because, like,
They-
there were high expectations. They
Yeah.
felt good. Again, CJ Stroud was on a great press tour. Like, the narrative was very much swung in Diggs' favor in the offseason. Everyone, like, people were rooting for Tank Dell. Nico Collins had finally reached, and, like, they had a fun, spunky defense. And, like, yeah, I think there's a lot of lessons we can take from the Houston Texans. The main one for me is the naivete that I had about like the offensive line getting better. Because last year,
It was terrible.
like, yes. And what's funny is like it's so much of the offense now looks like it did last year, where it's like kind of meaningless run on first down, second down short gain. So then we have to go from third and long. And that's just a tough place to live because, like, last year, all of those third and long throws were being made. This year, they're not being made. And the offensive line is even worse this year. So now everything's a beat off. And the lesson is, no, it can always get worse. Do not trust, like, assuming things will regress to, like, a nice medium or I guess progress in that case, like, assuming it'll get to a medium no matter what is a naive thought. Because, yeah, it just, again, the offensive coordinator is probably going to get fired, but like I don't know what you're supposed to do. Like, yeah, some of it's play calling, but like, what plays can you even call with an offensive line this bad? You want to run a Kyle Shanahan, you want to run a Kyle Shanahan offense, but you can't run a Kyle Shanahan offense when the offensive line is this bad.
Yeah.
And maybe that's on you for not changing away from a Kyle Shanahan offense, but like that's what you're known for doing, so
Yeah.
you're going to do it.
It's insane.
Yes, it's Well, it's just sad. And
It,
meanwhile, on the other,
yeah,
oh, go ahead.
I would say it's sad. I feel like Pittsburgh, outside of like they haven't really fallen apart. I feel like they just got hit with a hard strength of schedule more than anything else.
Honest, well, see, that's the thing. When they were winning all these games, it really was like they're the exact same team they were when they were winning all these games too. Like,
Yeah,
again, it's all the stuff we've been saying of like, yeah, this is who Russell Wilson is. Like, he's a guy who succeeds in an offense that is run first and then play action heavy, and 90% of it is checkdowns or deep shots down the middle. And they had been struggling recently because, Pickens had been out with, I believe, a hamstring, and like
so, I think it's
this
something in
offense,
the leg.
yeah. And like this offense literally can't work if your deep threat is Calvin Austin III, which no disrespect to him, but he is not the raw physical upside of like even a Golden Tate. Just thinking about the kind of receivers that Russell Wilson's played with over the years.
Yeah,
And that sort of caught up to them where it's like, you can run this kind of offense when your schedule is, not the easiest but not the hardest. And like, when the defense is firing on all cylinders, but when it's not, things can get really ugly really fast.
yeah. They had a very light start, and it
Hmm.
is turned to a very, very harsh, like ending part of the season. Because
Yeah, and it's interesting because like, oh, go ahead.
I would say their last 3 weeks, technically including Christmas too, is
Hmm.
like going backwards. Kansas City, Baltimore, Philadelphia, which is like that is not an easy effort being pushed at you.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah, and it's just interesting because it's like you shouldn't be mad at this season. This season's an objective victory. Like again, you're going to be 10-6, you're going to be 10-7 or 11-7 or 11-6 or God, I can't. Again, too many games. No more 18th game. I can't figure out the wins and losses then. But like, yeah, you're going to make the playoffs and you're at least going to put up a fight. But again, it's the same problem Pittsburgh's always had, where it's like, yeah, we got a winning record, then we slow down at the end, and then we lose. It still
yeah,
doesn't feel like the step forward you were hoping from Mason Rudolph and what's his name, Duck Hodgins
something like that.
in the 21st and one half century.
Yeah, but they made it's like they make the playoffs. They're
Hmm.
gonna have one of either the division or wild card spot. It's not guaranteed yet on which is which. Um, but it's like that game is going to be, oh God, so if they I don't know the exact tiebreaker mentality, but it's between them and the Chargers, depending on their records and stuff.
I believe right now they would be 5, Chargers would be 6, and
Yeah,
the Broncos would be 7. So they would play the Houston
they would
Texans.
play the
And I will
Texans first.
say that's a matchup that favors them, actually.
That's a matchup that favors them, but who's their matchup after that? Buffalo, Kansas City, like Chargers, like
Assuming everyone wins, it would be, I believe, Buffalo.
no,
Yes, because
no,
the Chiefs would play the Ravens. Because assuming it's well, that's true.
yeah,
Okay,
no, the
so
Chiefs,
that then it would be 1, 2, 3, 5. So
yes,
yeah, no, you're right. They
Kansas
they would
City,
play the Chiefs,
yeah, if
and we just saw how that went.
yeah, so it could be they had a learning experience because the Chiefs, while they do look more competent in the like last few games, I feel like it's the inverse of the Pittsburgh issue, where
Mhm.
Pittsburgh's like they were like Pittsburgh was doing very good, and then they get hit with a hard stop, and the Chiefs are just kind of going after these like slim pickings. Like their last 3 games was that were all decent blowouts for them considering their season. Was the
Mhm.
Browns, which means almost nothing. The Texans, who are clearly falling apart, like physically too, and the
Mhm.
Steelers, who are the same issue. They're kind of physically falling apart.
Right. And yeah, it's interesting because it is like, yeah, the Texans and the Steelers will probably play each other, and they are very much are a second tier of playoff contender.
Yes.
And well, I feel better about Houston because I'm like, look, this is like, at some point you'll get Tank Dell back, Diggs will be back. the pieces will be back, and you really just need to rethink how you want to run this offense.
I
Um,
I still think there is a light at the end of the Texans tunnel. I don't think it's going to result in any big wins this year. However,
mhm.
I think they're at like last season could have been a fluke for them. This season proved it wasn't a fluke. They just got very unlucky. If they spend their next
Mhm.
beginning of the season hyping up their linemen and not much more than that, they will become a bigger threat, like very quickly.
Right.
But they just need to get that.
My biggest worry with the Texans is just that, like, you watch the footage and it just feels like Stroud is a little jumpy. Like, it feels like he's regressed in terms of, like, not trusting what's in front of him,
I'm
which is a problem because he was so cool under pressure last year.
Yeah, but I feel like he also has the data. Like, there's more pressure this year because last year, if they won more than 4 games, they already did better than the previous season. Um,
Right, right.
like I feel like this season it's more on the lines of they are just like he knows they're supposed to be good and he can't just there's no making this up as they go along like his rookie
Mhm.
season. Anyway, let's go to this point. Kyle Pitts may have made the worst play I've ever seen in my life.
Yes. Look, because I love tight ends. I want there to be a lot of good tight ends in this league, and I was so hell bent on Kyle Pitts working. I was like, this is it. This is the year. He's off the knee injury. He'll be better. He'll make progress. And it was Giants Falcons. It was a absolutely non-competitive game, kind of the perfect game to put Penix in, honestly. Who looked solid. Again, was he a
didn't
world
look bad.
beater?
No.
Yeah. Well, he's exactly what you wanted him to look like. Someone who is able to put drive on his passes, someone who can move around in the pocket a little bit, and someone who can at least keep you competitive and get the ball to your star players. Because again, that's what this was about. You need Bijan Robinson, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts to look good.
Yes.
And
He's the
Drake
one
London has looked good.
he
yeah.
can make them look good.
Yes. Bijan Robinson has looked really good this year. Drake London's looked really good this year. But no one is making Kyle Pitts look good.
No.
And I'm mad about this game because I lost my fantasy. I lost as the first seed in fantasy because someone picked up. I'm not going to name names because someone picked up the Atlanta Falcons defense chasing Drew Lock.
All right, hold on.
Shame, dishonor,
Hold on.
rodent-like behavior.
Hold on.
In
I can
in,
mute.
ceram- in
I have the
ancient feudal
power to
Japan.
do it. I can.
In feudal Japan, they wouldn't even make you do seppuku because it would be dishonorable to soil a blade like that.
Here is my big issue with your complaint about this.
Yes,
He was-
as I open a liquid death.
He was not drafted, like, he did not pick up the Atlanta Falcons defense before this week. He picked them up the previous week. Now, while that could be playing for the future, or whatever the hell the bullshit is, I feel like you can't guarantee the same anger than if you were, like, you should be that level of angry if he picked him up, like, the day before the game. Picking them up like over a week beforehand, meh. I feel like that you can be butthurt, but you can't be upset.
I disagree, and I'm not going to give a good rebuttal. You can't make me. Well, yeah, and like 2 points from this game. One, you mentioned a lot of these matchups aren't good, and that's because the teams that are on the bottom rung really are like packing
They're
it
the
in.
bottom
Again.
rung, yeah.
Yeah, like the Patriots aren't
reason.
really trying hard. Yeah, the Patriots tried kind of hard against the Bills, and no one else. Like they're done. The Giants are done. Like there's a lot of teams who really like the Browns that are actually making business decisions where like they're going full NBA with it and just being like, we are not going to try. No thanks.
It's tanking for draft pick season.
Yeah, but normally in the NFL, that's so much harder to do. Like, there's no Danny DeVito being a spunky guy and, like, the guys rallying around him this year. No.
Tommy DeVito?
But anyway, what did I say?
You said Danny.
Hey, I'm Danny DeVito. I'm the quarterback of the New York Giants. I was
Might
the
have better luck.
Penguin.
They might have better luck. Fucking 2
Just
wins
that
this
little
season.
fellow wobbling around. That's an Always Sunny bit. Danny just getting fucking annihilated by, like, Jalen Carter or something.
That would be
Just helmet popping off. Yeah, I'll pitch some ideas then. Anyway, Kyle Pitts in the red zone. He gets 2 targets. One of them, it's like he's scooping it up to the air, like he's in Saigon as like the embassy is falling, and holding up his baby, like that scene from Hey Arthur, like trying to get like the American GI to like take the get the baby
Hey
out
Arthur?
of there.
You mean Hey Arnold?
God damn it! I got so fired up at the beginning of this, and I'm losing my voice now because I screamed too much. Like, yes, but Hey Arnold. Hey Arnold. That bit where he's like holding, it's literally that, except, yeah, basically he just flips the football into the air. Yeah, the fucking Christmas episode. He flips the ball up into the air and it gets intercepted. Truly one of the ugliest attempts to catch a pass I've ever seen in my life. I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know why someone's body would just naturally do those things in the heat of the moment. And it really is like, I'm starting to worry that like Kyle Pitts is just done. Like sometimes a guy, like we talk about like what went wrong with Carson Wentz, and it's like, yeah, he had an ACL injury and he never really recovered. Like he never got his athleticism back. And I'm really starting to worry Kyle Pitts is there. I wanted to bring this up because in terms of the highlights of this week, the iconic highlights, that's going to be one of them. Just in terms of sheer egregiousness. Like back in the VHS days, it would be like a football follies, and they would add like a slippy sound effect, like a whoop.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, good for Michael Penix Jr. Objective ref calls. I'm curious to hear what you have to say about this.
Alright, so I've been having problems with this for a while. These objective ref calls where they can talk things up. And it came very much to fruition during the Eagles game. It's like a very big thing. Like, there was the pretty dirty looking hit on Jalen Hurts, which gave him a concussion, which is that one of those things where it's just like, that is flying right along the line of like being missed, because it would be egregious if they missed and egregious if they like made the call. Like it was like that very thin line. But my biggest problem, like I said it last week, when Jonathan Taylor dropped the ball at the 1, and it's like, that is a clear, he did not have possession of the football when he crossed the line to the end zone. Which, it's like a basic level thing. Did he technically have it, and was that totally an accident? Yes. He definitely, like, you could have argued that. But it's like one of these, like, very distinct, like, you blew this rule. My problem is, with all like the shit talking or whatever CJ Gardner-Johnson was doing, which he got fined like $45,000 for, they like announced, for his personal files, which is kind of insane for him saying a lot of words. The biggest problem was that someone on the Commanders hit him in the helmet, just a straight up punch, hard enough to knock his helmet off. Which, those things are fitted for you. So it's like, the fact that you can knock it off regardless if it was clipped in or not, you hit him with a decent bit of force. In front of the referee. And there was nothing called on that. Like, I don't care. Like, obviously I'm not happy with pretty quality safety getting disqualified. But the fact that a punch was clearly thrown in front of a referee and nothing was called about that is what drives me insane. Because any other situation, a punch is at least a personal foul at best. Like, best case scenario. And it's like, do I think that would have won the Eagles the game? No. That is just like one of those calls where it's just like, this is so stupid. Like, it is so stupidly obvious. Like, when you face mask someone in front of the ref, that it drives me insane.
Right.
It's like, no, he didn't wrap his fingers around. And then not only do you watch it on TV, you watch the replay in the stadium. And you hear the crowd react to it in the middle of the broadcast. of like somebody just like clearly wrapping their fingers around like the fucking face mask. That's what drives me insane. Is these like bullshit objective ass calls, and I don't know how much of it is shit posting or not, but rumor has it that that ref crew has been suspended from that game.
Hmm.
I'm I don't have a reliable source, so I do not want to be like, oh yeah, like this is definitely what happened. It is just like it's one of those rumor things, and it's just like, how legitimate is this? Because you know for a fact that the what's it called? Any amount of it is going to be like rumored to be true is going to be just run with the shitpost community.
Hmm. Yeah, I was curious how you were going to invoke the Eagles game, which is actually like it really is like kind of the most consequential game of this week.
Yeah.
In terms of like now the Eagles are firmly out of the contention for the number one seed. It makes it a lot easier for Washington to get into playoffs.
Yeah. I'm way more okay with it than I feel like I should be. Because Kenny Pickett's nowhere on the same caliber as Jalen Hurts.
So yeah, the only thing I'd have to say about this game is it's Kenny Pickett.
Yeah,
he's not good.
Losing by 3 in that kind of situation kind of checks out.
Right.
Backup safeties, backup corners, not really looking good. Can understand that. Commanders have been firing on all cylinders all season. We beat them earlier in the year. Could have gotten cocky, whatever. There's like so many other factors. Like Devontae Smith, huge drop. He had a huge drop that would have sealed the game. But like that is my biggest like issue with it, is this like objective ass ref calling, where it's just like, if it was like, obviously I wouldn't be as passionate about it if it was against the Commanders. It's just like when they do this kind of like, but it's like I would have seen it and just been like, oh, punch was thrown, at least offsetting penalties, like minimum for this. And it's just like, what the fuck do you mean no offsetting penalties? Like, that's kind of absurd. Also, Jalen Carter hit his patented dive.
Try to dive. He's gonna do it. Spike. He's gonna pull it off at some point.
Oh man, like
it'll be in his Hall of Fame. Yeah, it'll get him into the Hall of Fame.
It doesn't matter how bad they're losing, how bad they look, but that always gets a smile out of me. It gets a smile out of everyone around him, because they always show him like getting up, because it's a silly ass play. He goes for it, and then you see him smirking and pointing at the linemen and stuff, and it's like, one of these times I'm gonna get you with it.
Right. The key to being an iconic defensive tackle is possibly being a crazy person, and he passes that test with flying colors.
You gotta have a fun level of silly, but yeah, so it's like I don't think this is any grounds to be worried about. Like, the Commanders have been playoff caliber team almost the entire season. So
right, it's like, again, if there's one thing to take away from this, it's like the beginning of the season, despite the ups and downs they had during the middle period of the season, are not a fluke. Jalen Daniels really is that good. Yeah. Terry McLaurin really is that good. And as long as things are moving at a moderate pace, they're pretty darn good.
Yeah, Jalen Daniels looked fantastic. Like, I can't deny that. He looked great.
Yeah, like all the talk about, like, how did they let him score in the end zone? That guy was not open when he threw that ball. He threw that man open perfectly in between defenders. Like, that was a beautiful play. And then, like,
he does again, good. He's a good
yes,
player.
And then the awareness to be like, okay, we cannot run the ball inside on this team. Our running game is going to be me scrambling. I will say that's my biggest takeaway from the Commanders is, like, they really need to invest in one fast running. I love Brian Robinson.
Yeah,
but he is not fast.
If they drafted the top running back at their time, like at their draft pick, I feel like that is a solid move by them.
But yeah, my biggest takeaway from the Eagles is not like, oh man, the drops, or like, oh, the offense didn't do this, or the offense didn't look that. It's like, no, Kenny Pickett really is that bad. of the 32 possible starters in the NFL, he's 33. He has the irrational confidence of Josh Allen despite not having his physical tools. That's the biggest thing. I'm like,
Yeah,
surely Tanner McKee would just get rid of the ball
yeah.
faster, right? Like, he has no delusions of grandeur.
Yes.
He would just hot potato that thing away from him and
I
let
think
better
that is-
people play.
I think that is probably one of the there is like putting in Tanner McKee would have been first off more entertaining if you ask me, because it's like you're like it's like all right, your QB1 is out, and it is not an essential game for you because the Eagles are already at least in the wild card picture.
Right.
Their final two games are against Dallas and the Giants. So it's like I wouldn't be too surprised if they kind of just threw those games away. They always fuck up around Christmas the last few years. There's always that it happens almost every single the last few seasons they lose the game the week of Christmas.
Yeah.
It happens. I think putting in Tanner McKee would have been entertaining. Just put in the young guy, see what he does, and just fuck around with it. Because he would have been...
putting Tanner McKee, he would have been different.
He would have been so focused on not missing something. Like, he would have been probably more likely to throw an interception and stuff. But he would have been so focused on, like, I can't be the hero here. It's not going to be me. AJ! And, like that kind of panic that I feel like with the talent that the Eagles have, I feel like they could have gotten away with it more.
Yeah, and that's, like, the fundamental problem that we've seen throughout Kenny Pickett's career. It was not just Pittsburgh. The man, he just doesn't understand, like, no, you're not that guy. You're never going to be that guy. Yeah, you are a guy who runs the offense. You have you have C- physical traits. You have to just get rid of it.
Not one. There's no tushes being pushed with him.
I feel like that, and if nothing else, the chaos of putting in Tanner McKee, who has no footage on him, is the equivalent of that meme I always like, where it's like a guy opening a door on like a rooftop and going, "Yo, bippity boppity, fuck your mother," and tossing a pigeon into the room, and you just hear everyone like, "Ah!" But yeah, I like that. I think that's a good way to sum up the Eagles game. Yes, both of our teams kind of stunk up the joint, but at least mine won, I guess. Which leads me into my. Go ahead.
A quick bit with it's like, I was confident that with the Lions winning their game, that the Eagles pretty much ran out of chances of collecting, because they were. So it's like taking that number 2 seed, or because the other most winning teams are on the NFC North. Taking that number 2 seed at the rate they're going, it's like, all right, we'll see who the 7 seed is first and go from there.
Right.
Which is kind of up in the air. No, it's Washington.
Yes.
It's going to be Washington.
I mean, it's probably going to be Washington. And, like, they are actually a team I wouldn't want to see in the playoffs, because I'm like, the amount they could pull off alarms me.
Also?
But, yes. Oh, go ahead.
In, like, the best case scenario, the Commanders beating the Eagles led both Dallas and San Francisco from being truly eliminated. Like,
interesting.
They got eliminated from the playoffs because the Commanders beat the Eagles, and that is, like, the most, like we're gonna put a Band-Aid on this boo-boo for you.
That's really funny.
That's kind of like, it's like, I want to be more mad, but like now those guys don't have a chance, and I hate that. Like, Washington's been unobjectively good this season, and they're on this weird rebound year, possibly. Who knows how long it's gonna go. So it's like, while I don't want to lose to them, it's kind of like I at least have respect for them, and it's just like, all right, like,
right.
If we lost to the Giants in like an unfair fashion, I would feel terrible about myself. Any loss against Dallas, I feel terrible about, regardless if they're good or bad. But it's like Washington, like this season, Washington. It's like, all right, like I feel like you definitely, like, you've earned it. Like the Lions, when they started making their turnaround, where it's just like, all right, you're fucking earning this shit.
Oh yeah. Well, also it's interesting because we didn't have the Cowboys Buccaneers game listed. It was actually a pretty good game. Again, Mayfield slinging it. It's disappointing because now the Bucks are on the outside looking in. But I just think it's so funny that that entire game, Chris Collinsworth kept being like, "Oh, look at these Cowboys! You know, they've been eliminated. They have literally nothing to play for. Literally, this is a meaningless game for them, and they're fighting so hard. You know, this game truly, you could just blow up the stadium, and it would have the same effect, and we're still playing it. And I just imagine someone at halftime being like, "Hey, the NBC chief wants to talk to you. What the fuck are you doing? We need people to watch this game. Stop saying it's meaningless."
I fucking hate Chris Collinsworth. He's my least favorite announcer by far. He
Really?
I do not
More than Romo?
Romo I get annoyed with, but at least he has this like history and stuff that it's just like, all right, like I can be kind of like I can be mad at him. He's gonna say some out of pocket things that I don't like, but Chris Collinsworth is by far the worst, in my opinion.
Okay. I really do think it's also like exposure to, like, it's like a virus. Who you're exposed to more hurts you more. Like, I have to deal with Romo every other fucking week because we're in the AFC. That I think it just bothers me more.
Yeah.
But, well, I hate Tommy Boy most because he's the most, like, he's just kind of inept. And it's like,
See,
God, you had Greg Olson who's so good at this.
yeah,
And now he doesn't get to do it anymore.
that's why I don't like it. Is it weird hearing Tom Brady make games? Yes, super weird. It freaks me out a little bit. But I'm like, do I like him as a commentator? No, but it's his first season doing it, and he goes from being behind the goes to behind the camera from in front of the camera.
Yes.
So it's like I can and he was never known to be like Mr. Talkative and stuff.
Yeah, like
So
Peyton won the PR battle in terms of being like
absolutely.
the fun guy on screen.
Yeah.
Whereas Tommy Boy, his SNL episode is kind of like whatever.
Yeah.
I evaluate athletes by their SNL performances.
But it's like that way. I wouldn't say he's like a favorite of mine, but at least he's like I don't. He has at least has a bye for being not my favorite.
Okay, that's fair, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know. It was very funny. I don't know. Collinsworth has his moments. He has a couple good moments with the Bills. Like, I don't remember what game it was, but he was like, I don't know. It's too early in the season to make calls about who should be MVP or not. And then Josh throws a touchdown and he goes, okay, maybe he's the MVP. I don't know. He's capable of being funny in a way I like. But our last downer for the week is Carter is so fucking tired of the MVP discussion. So we'll talk about the Ravens game, but
I feel like was it just so in depth this year, or did it
it's been the
start
last
earlier?
few years.
'Cause I
A
feel
combination of things, I think. I think it started earlier than it usually does. And
I feel like I'm burnt out from it already.
yes,
Is
I
it-
am excessively burnt out, I assure you. Yes, so basically, it has basically come down to Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson for the second
Side note.
straight year.
The Bengals won in overtime.
Shit, they might actually make the playoffs. I really don't want to see them in the playoffs. My stance on the playoffs is I just don't want to play against whoever the best quarterback is. Like-
Joey football. Joey
And he
football's
would
good.
be. And I just don't want to deal with that. Because that's always the wild card. Like, good offenses can beat good defenses. Like, bad offenses can surprise good defenses. And, like, there's a lot of high variance, but a team with a good quarterback is dangerous. But anyway, yes. So, much like last year, a lot of discourse was, like, Josh Allen coming on strong at the end, but losing to Lamar Jackson, who was having a great year. And it somehow has ended up there again, despite, like, our love of Derrick Henry and our love of Saquon Barkley. Yes. So after having and someone pointed this out, it was very predictable that this discourse would happen because the last couple weeks of the season, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens have had premier primetime slots. They've had they had Christmas, they had Saturday, whereas the Bills are playing 3 dinky division games. And in particular, they're playing the Patriots twice, who is the one team that Josh Allen just cannot best. Like,
He looks
outside of the one playoff game where he had the perfect we scored on every drive game, they just somehow get under his skin in a way I don't understand.
Yeah. They somehow just cause problems for him.
Hmm.
And, like, they didn't win their last game against them, but they still caused enough problems to
Right.
make it like,
Yeah.
oh.
Yes, they won. The Bills won 24-21. Josh was 16 of 29, 154 yards, one touchdown, one pick. It was which is a very, like, Josh Allen didn't have the best day. And it's so funny how it always happens. It really is. They're just like a beat off where it's like, oh, Shakir just missed that touchdown catch. Oh, that was just out of Dalton Kincaid's reach.
Mm-hmm.
But on top of that, Lamar Jackson has looked really, really good the last 2 weeks. We'll talk about his most recent game next week. But against the Steelers, he ended up, what was his stat line? Let me pull that up. And as a fantasy player, I really needed them to stop throwing at the fucking goal line. But he ended up having 3 touchdowns. He looked really good. They kind of just crushed the Steelers. And it's a primetime game. And now the discourse has once again become painful, toxic. I believe Ryan Clark had a fucking comment where he's like, oh, well, if Josh wins, it'll be a pity thing. Basically, they're trying to Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, this thing. Where it's like, oh, Embiid only won because they feel bad for him. And I'm like, do you not remember the game where he had 3 touchdowns in passing and 3 touchdowns running? Like, what are you talking about? The Bills weren't supposed to be in the playoffs this year, and the second seed. They're only not the first seed because the Chiefs have some kind of dark magic on them.
Yeah, they got
and it's just right. At some point, it just becomes tired and sad, and I'm so tired of, like, I didn't survive the entire Joker Embiid saga to just do it again. And I really do think it's only with Lamar because, like, fucking Bill Polian, former Bills GM, was on ESPN, and of course, as a crusty old white man, he just had to make the comment of, like, well, maybe Lamar should be a wide receiver when he gets to the NFL. Because of course he did. And that permanently, and, like, well, I mean, Danny's talked about this, but it permanently creates this angle of, like, no one believed in Lamar Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
No one, and I'm like, you can't pull that shit after winning 2 MVPs. I'm sorry, you just can't. And, like, I don't want to hate Lamar Jackson. I think he's awesome. I just hate this discourse. And ultimately, my decision is just give it to Saquon Barkley because I'm fucking tired of this. Because this isn't fun. Both fandoms need to get kicked in the dick. Like,
I want Saquon to break this record, like, so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Because A, he's an Eagle and it'll be cool as fuck. But B, it would help just be like, I think it would shift the picture, the MVP picture. If you break such a long-standing record like that.
Yes, exactly.
That is not super cool. And while I truly agree of, like, a lot of people's complaints about it and stuff is, well, technically he's doing it in more games. It's like, yes, I agree with that.
Okay, but then why haven't more records been broken?
That's also the statement of why aren't more broken? It's also listed as the regular season when they formally announce it. They don't say within 16 weeks or whatever.
Right. And again, my counter to that is like, well, whatever. LaDainian Tomlinson broke the record in 14 games and then didn't score the last 2 because they were resting him.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know what to tell you. But, like, yeah, I think if you break that record that's been so long-standing, I think it just pushes you over the top, despite all of the, despite all of the individual game records that both Lamar and Josh have broken, and their, like, precedents and histories. And, like, yeah, a part of it is, like, the fandoms have just gotten so toxic, and it's just gotten so tired. It's like, do we really want to do this for another 5 years? Because that's what's going to happen. It's going to be these two. And I think a part of it for both fandoms is that deep down fear that, like, Mahomes is just going to get all the rings and Josh and Lamar will never win a Super Bowl. So you need as much hardware as you win to, like, make your argument. Yeah. Again, that's the whole thing with Joel Embiid and the Sixers fans, where it's like, we are never going to win we just missed the window. We're never going to win the championship. So let's, like, you know, we'll get this one MVP. So this entire era is at least memorialized somehow. And here's my stance, because people are like, oh, well, is Saquon really the most valuable? They have A.J. Brown. They have Devonta Smith. And I'm like, think about how toxic the Eagles were to start the year when they lost 2 straight. Think about how, again, there were articles coming out about, like, Sirianni and Hurts arguing. Like, all the questions were, like, how's the locker room? How's this? How's that? And they were really in a bad place during that Saints game until Barkley broke, like, a 70-yard run to completely change the momentum of the game. There is a very real timeline where they blow that game, and Sirianni gets fired before Christmas. Like, the entire locker
Yeah.
room just collapses, and everything falls apart. Saquon saved the Eagles season as far as I'm concerned. And if anyone on the Eagles should be a little pissy piss boy about, like, stats and targets and whatnot, it's Barkley. Because Jalen fucking Hurts has how many rushing he's going to break the fucking quarterback rushing touchdown record for a second straight year. That's silly.
He's gonna
That's
break
dumb.
his
The whole
own
point.
record.
Yes. The whole fucking point of bringing Saquon Barkley was because Jalen wouldn't have to run so much and he wouldn't get hurt.
Mhm.
Like, he wouldn't have to have like 12 beefy men crushing him on every single like drive. But yeah, he has 14 fucking rushing touchdowns. If you even give half of those to Barkley, he's a runaway MVP.
Yeah.
And yeah, so thank you, Your Honor. The defense rests. Whatever. Fuck Mortimer Rat or whatever his name is. That guy's a slays ball.
Yep.
You know Mortimer Mouse. He's like the big mouse who's like Mickey Mouse's rival.
Yeah, I know.
He says ha cha cha.
Yeah, I didn't know he says ha cha cha, but I knew who he is. All right, let's.
It's his catchphrase. Says it all the time. All right. Highlights, and these are kind of back to back. Oh god damn it! Did we miss our chance to stop the Chiefs? And oh god damn it! Did we miss our chance to stop the Ravens? If there's one thing these primetime games have shown is both the Ravens and the Chiefs have kind of figured it out. So the Chiefs, like I said, they beat the Texans 27-19, and the biggest thing is Hollywood Brown is back, baby.
Yes,
he's
back and he's firing on all cylinders.
Yes, he looked again,
He looked
and
good.
it's something I talked about. Like, oh, go ahead.
I said no. That was end of statement. He looked good.
Yeah, and yeah, it's something we talked about with like with the Bills. And like, if you don't have an elite number one wide receiver, what you need to do is have everyone in a very clear, purposeful role, and they finally have done that. Hollywood, because the thing is, Xavier Worthy isn't really a like deep threat. He wasn't really a deep threat guy in college, so you're asking him to do something he hasn't developed the skills for. Because it's kind of hard to be a deep threat guy,
Yes.
other than just being fast. It's surviving pressure. It's tracking the ball. It's this and that. So Brown covers that. Xavier gets to focus exclusively on like what he did in college, which is like very short and intermediate routes and like just getting out in space and being a slippery little dude. Yeah, being a slippery little guy.
He is best at, and I fully support it. I might
Yes.
not want the Chiefs to win, but I can't deny this kid's having a good year.
Yes, and DeAndre Hopkins is like, he's not the jump ball go get it guy he used to be, but he is a reliable, like, you need a tough third down, he's got it.
Option, yeah. Like, I don't think he's going to be like, you're not going to be getting like a 40-yard pass to him that ends up in a touchdown,
Mm-hmm.
but you'll get a solid like 5-yard pass, 5 yards run. Like, run after.
Yeah.
Like, he can get first downs reliably. And
Yes, and that's exactly what you're going for in terms of like, ideally, and how it's worked the last 2 years has been like really good blocking and make sure we're never in third and long. At worst, we're 3rd and 5, and we just have like a bunch of good enough guys who can make it work.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
And moving DJ Humphrey to left tackle has just completely changed what was a very ugly offensive line into a much more favorable offensive line.
It's funny how one
Or pardon me, Joe Tooney. They moved Humphrey off of tackle, and Joe Tooney's just fixed the problem for them.
You know, it's funny how like just one little shift like that, especially on like a position such as lineman, just really just changes things.
Well, it's what we were talking about with the Ravens at the beginning of the year, where they hadn't figured out their offensive line alignment yet. And it's like, yeah, the teams that win in the playoffs are the ones who have had the same 5 guys for most of the year and just have a reliable system in place. And now they have that, and the defense is looking better. And it does just feel like, God, did we all get rope-a-doped? Again, we talked about like the margin for error of this team, and it's like, well, the margin just got a lot bigger again. Yeah. Like, now they at least have some options.
There's leniency with them again.
Yes.
Which is kind of scary.
Mm-hmm. And I do think it's going to come down to, like, it really is just going to come down to who plays who first, because I do think Chiefs, Bills, Ravens have an interesting rock, paper, scissors thing, where I don't think the Bills can beat the Ravens. I'm not sure if the Ravens can beat the Chiefs, but I know the Bills can beat the Chiefs.
I think,
like, the way they all match up is like inconvenient convenient for the other one.
I think that both of them can beat the Chiefs, but only before the conference game. I think whichever team gets the Chiefs in the divisional round is going to have the best odds of getting it, because the conference game, besides just being locked in, that's when pulses are going to be high for getting that three-peat.
Yes,
or like extra
I get
high.
that.
So it's like whichever team, regardless of seeding, like end of year seeding that happens, gets, because the Chiefs pretty much have the conference locked. I think formally.
Yes, they are officially the number one seed. The Bills are. If the Bills win out, they are going to be the first. They are going to be the first team with 14 wins to not be the bye team.
Yeah.
Because they arbitrarily decided we only needed one.
Yeah, but yeah. So I think that's going to be like, I think that divisional game is going to be that is going to be your opportunity to dethrone the Chiefs the easiest, and then I think it's like two very different reasons for the other two teams to want to take down the Chiefs, because the Bills are tired of this all losing in the playoffs to them, and the Ravens want to have a revenge game from the season opener, because they should not have lost that. I think they want that revenge game badly. And
I agree.
And then we'll see how the playoffs go from there. Fucking the NFC is just a crapshoot, and it's just who gets the most favorable match. It's going to be who gets the most favorable matchup going into the divisions too, because
yes,
this kind of leads into another point we have. The NFC North is just good. Whoever is facing an NFC North team in the divisional round, or like the wild card round, it's kind of up in the air. But for a little bit of a different reason, where it's gonna be more of you upset the NFC North team in the wild card round, as opposed to the NFC, like the lower seeded NFC North team won. It's the divisional round where it's gonna be the same level of scary, and it could be two of them facing each other.
Yes, it is so wild. Again, I think we really lost sight of, in terms of talking about the Vikings as like a nice little inspiring story. They persevered despite losing their top tier, their top pick. And it's like, no, they might be the number one seed. They actually might just.
They are both neck and neck. Lions play the 49ers this coming week. Vikings play the Packers. So that week 17 matchup is a little bit more favorable to the Lions, because San Francisco looks like dog shit. But the top four
teams in the NFC in terms of win percentage: Lions, Vikings, Eagles, Packers.
Yeah,
they have 75% of the top. If they did seeding based off just win percentage, they would have the top. They would have the top four spots.
Yeah. But the final week, week 18, and in my opinion, pick for Sunday Night Football, Vikings-Lions. Especially if both teams win or both teams lose, they're fighting for that. They're fighting for that bye week. They're not fighting for the division. They're fighting for the bye. So I'm excited.
Yes.
That is like, when I make the schedule, if that's not the 8:20 Sunday Night Football game, something has happened to me by that point. Or something else made significant enough news.
And I will say, this week really did embody like what all of them can do really, really well. Sam Darnold, despite, again, it was a classic Sam Darnold game in terms of there was almost a fumble, he almost threw an interception, and yet his insistence on slinging it to his two best guys against a very good Seahawks defense, who has been surging lately, results in three touchdowns to Jefferson and Addison to win the game on the final drive, I believe. Because, again, they were down, I believe it was, they were down 24-20. They end up going on a 4-play, 70-yard drive to take the lead, and then it's just missed field goal, punt, interception to end the game.
Yeah.
And, it's a combination of, an impressive, explosive offense, but also, again, the the variety of defense, the fact that Brian Flores isn't a head coach now is truly, well, it's mostly because he's suing the NFL for discriminatory practices. But like what he's been able to do with, again, a defense that doesn't have a lot of top end talent, but he just changes up the system so much. Like last year, it was just blitz, 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 blitz. Now it's like schemed up coverages, a lot of like razzmatazz, and they're still just as good. The Lions kind of just put the shellacking on the Bears, 34-17, and it really didn't even feel that close. Just like, again, they're just playing with cheat codes on. There was a play where they pretended to trip, like fumble, and then threw a touchdown. Again, it just is weird. Despite like the pressure of maybe not getting the number one seed, they just feel very relaxed.
They feel the loss of in I don't know, a good or bad fashion. I don't know which it is.
Right. And the Packers just punched the Saints so hard their penises flew off. Truly, the least competitive game of the week. And apparently only the second shutout. Yeah. Apparently the only second shutout of the year, which I just refuse to believe.
There has not. This has been like there's been a lot of 3s and a lot of 6s, but there has not been a lot of shutouts.
But yeah, it's just a weirdly like. Again, an extraordinary level of like balance on their offense of like power running mixed with like just pushing the ball downfield at all times. If someone's open 30 yards downfield, just go for it. It's okay if you throw an interception. We'll get it back.
Down your throat. Whether you like it or not. But
I hate to say it, but I genuinely think all 3 of these teams could win the Super Bowl.
Oh, no. I don't hate to say it. I fully admit that all 3 of these teams can win the Super Bowl. Obviously, out of the 3 of them, my favorite is going to be the Lions because if it's not going to be my team, I at bare minimum want to see a new winner.
Agreed.
And like, it's been my philosophy for years. Like, if the Eagles are out, take last year for example, the Eagles got out first round. I was hoping for like a Bills-Lions game where both teams were scary competitive and it didn't matter which one of them won, at least that much to me, because it would have been a new winner, and it would have been a hopefully more fun game, as opposed to the last Super Bowl. Well, what actually happened?
Yes, but yeah,
Where's his first shutout of the season? Granted, I am just scrolling.
I know there was one before. I think there was one literally the week before, and then we had 2 in a row. But yes, while you're looking for that, I will briefly talk about my Don't Sleep On game of the week. Carolina, Arizona, the game that eliminated Arizona from the playoffs. And
very weird.
I gotta say, yes.
Well,
and I gotta say, I'm starting to feel kind of out on, not necessarily the Cardinals, but certainly Kyler Murray, because it just, at some point, the meme of, like, he can't win in the back half of the season just becomes, like, a problem that is kind of insurmountable.
It's like my thing with the refs of, like, how it was like, this is a rumor in the rumor mill, but it is a, it is, like, a non-guaranteed thing.
Yes. I mostly wanted to bring up this game. One, because I'm just so damn proud of those. I'm just so damn proud of those Panthers finally getting the win. Because at the end of the day, they're going to get a high enough draft pick. They don't need the first pick. They can have whoever falls to them. They need moral. They need like morale. They need victories. And watching Chuba Hubbard, who had cost them an overtime game against the Buccaneers by fumbling in overtime, having the last drive of the game be Chuba Hubbard for 28 yards, Chuba Hubbard for 21 yards, touchdown. It's just like, again, that's how you build culture. That's how you build a franchise. Moments like that, where this guy who you'd kind of given up on is starting to come alive this season, and then has this like really cathartic, awesome moment where he like wins a game for you.
That was the first
that's how you build a future.
The NFL season this year.
Oh lordy, that's the first.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't find it.
Oh damn.
All right, continue with your Chuba Hubbard.
Anyway, no, that really was it. I'm like, this is, if you're hoping that the Panthers can turn it around and make it work with Bryce Young, this would be the start of that in terms of like building a culture of like working together to win.
Mm-hmm.
And yours was a game we just talked about, Minnesota Seattle. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, it's just it was obviously a very close game, 27-24 in favor of the Vikings, as we previously discussed it, and I think it was like we talked about it earlier in the season. Seattle is a pacer team. If you can beat the Seattle Seahawks, you can do pretty good in the playoffs. And I feel like
Mhm.
outside of it being that, it is also proving this game like also proved why Seattle is that team. Like is that pacer team because they're only 9-7
Mhm.
at the moment. They have a chance at getting the division. Still, technically speaking, they're not truly eliminated yet. Uh, they won't get a wild card if they do, and
Mhm.
it is just a solid. Like they are that solid pacer team that is like that could be. If the NFC South wasn't in the picture, they could be the number 4 of the divisional picks, or they could be like the number 7 of the wild card picks, or they could be like that eighth, ninth team where it's like they just missed it. This current
Mhm.
iteration of the Seahawks, and I feel like they've been a little bit in a rough patch the last few weeks. And when I say rough patch, I mean they lost to the Packers, but Packers were scary, and they had this drag along game against the Bears
Mhm.
uh, for Thursday night football. But it is like that fun little like they they looked like they weren't firing on all cylinders for a bit,
Mhm.
and now it's like they looked good. They looked comfy. Um, yeah, no one did anything crazy stupid. Can't complain about. And it wasn't a drag of a game during too much football. Eh,
Agreed.
anyway, shall we hit the old notes period?
Yes. What the hell is a free kick? So the Chargers did something called a free kick. I
Yes.
still don't understand this. Can you enlighten me on this, or do
All
you
right.
not know either?
I have a vague idea. I can give it to you like in the best description I can, where if you get a kickoff, and I think you have
Mm.
to call it um a full not a full kick. What's the word? Fair catch.
Mm.
Um, you call it a fair catch, and then you have the option to like kick it from where it lied kind of situation.
Mm.
Let me see if I can find a better. God, I don't want to see the whole like Wikipedia page. Just give me the stupid like give me the NFL news subreddit. All right, it happens. So it's off after a kickoff, and the kicker can use a tee, place it, or do a drop ball kick after a safety. Blah blah blah. Uh, yeah, it's I don't know.
Only John Harbaugh would somehow know for this obtuse and
Yeah,
utilize it Monday night football or a Thursday night football game. It had to be on a Thursday night.
yeah. It's basically a yeah. Shout out to the one dude that was like shout out to everyone being here after the best after the Thursday night game. Um, yeah, no, I'm only confusing myself more. If a kicking team violates the fair catch rule, the receiving team can elect to do a free kick, which is a kickoff that can be returned, but also can result in a field goal. Thank
Mm.
you, Senior Troll Cam.
Real one. Wait, I don't know. Maybe he's like a weirdo. I
I don't
don't.
know. He had
Likes are
some.
not endorsements.
Yeah, true. But yeah, so
Anyway,
yeah, you can. It can be a kickoff. It can be a field. If they make it through the uprights, it can be a field goal. Regardless, it was pretty cool if you ask me.
mm,
Alrighty, now let's go to the old playoff bound check-in. As we
yes.
said, Kansas City conference, Los Angeles Chargers got a wild card spot. Green Bay
Proud of them.
Packers formally grabbed their wild card spot, even though it was in the works for a while. And the
Feel
Baltimore
good about them.
Football Ravens, technically same situation, got a wild card spot.
But now control their destiny for their division, which didn't feel like a thing.
Yeah, it felt like it was Pittsburgh's locked in a few weeks ago, but now it is no longer locked in. And now for the who gets the boot. Dallas and San Francisco, as previously discussed by me. Arizona, previously discussed by Carter. Also, I keep saying disgusted
Yes.
instead of disgust. I don't know what is.
Well, I'm disgusted by these teams.
Oh, yeah,
There's a
they're
lot of
gross.
high hopes in this group more than the others. A lot of high hopes that imploded.
Yes, and the New Orleans Saints, the hottest start of the season, is now formally eliminated.
Yeah, at least they can't. I think it's for the best. It's for the best that they didn't rally and make the playoffs because now they can't talk themselves into spending money irresponsibly.
Yes, they have to give money back or some shit. I don't know. Not be
Well, I mean, basically yes.
Right.
Well, no, they have to give money to people, and then their salary cap is like you spend any money. It's like their credit card getting more.
Yeah. Question of the week. These ones actually, because there's two, were brought to us by you this week,
Yeah, felt like I had to bring it.
and I feel like these are very good ones. What is
Yes.
one annoying rule you want gone in the NFL?
Yes. So this is inspired by on Sunday Night Football. Al Michaels, or not Al Michaels. It hasn't been Al Michaels in years. Jesus Christ. Mike Tirico going on a weird little tirade. It's the angriest I've seen him get in a while about like how stupid it is that the clock can hit 0, but if the ref doesn't, like, they basically get an extra half second because the ref has to look up to see it.
Yeah.
And he's like, when it hits 0, a buzzer should go and the game stops. And I thought that was interesting because it's like, what little rules or like protocols bother you about the NFL?
That's fair. I feel like mine's a very obvious Kevin one of you have to declare onside kicks. It's made them so much not fun.
Yeah, I don't know.
I hate it.
It is kind of wild how radicalized I've become against the new kicking rules. Just because it's just nothing.
Yeah, I like how it does technically lead to some more kick returns. I can kind of respect that, but I feel like that and ruining the element of surprise, onside kick are not equal level.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. Like, because like you get that element of surprise, like everyone's building it up, like you're going deep. They don't believe you, and then you just hit that 10-yarder little bouncing guy, and then you dive on it like Pat McAfee, where you just grab it and then you curl up in a ball and hope for the best.
Right.
Like that was awesome, and I feel like this season would benefit. Like there's some moments that would benefit from not being able to call the onside kick, like getting away with it.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm bringing to the table is I think so the idea of like the booth review calling it from New York.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that we only use it sometimes. We either have to use it for every game all the time or we can't use it. Like it bothers me so much the arbitrariness of like, you can do, we have it for this game, so like the calls are going to be extra good, but we didn't bother to get anyone for this game, so the calls are going to be on the whims of a bunch of like 55-year-olds who are trying to keep up with the fastest athletes on the planet. Yeah. Like it's just like, why do you have this tool if you're not going to use it?
Yeah.
Why do you have the kill Hitler gun if you're not going to shoot Hitler with the Hitler gun?
Yeah, no, it's because you're shooting Toby twice. But
well, yeah, but
bringing back the Office reference, but
he knows what he did.
No, that also drives me insane. Of like, because it's so unreliable, and it also feels like just one of those things where you just don't want to admit the refs are wrong. Like,
it is crazy how much of the energy is that.
Yeah, because I've talked about it for a few games this season. There is nothing that kills a good game more than a ref making a stupid call that just takes the wind out of sails.
Hmm.
Regardless if it's a right call or a wrong call, if it's something stupid related, I feel like it just like takes wind out of sails. And then if you like, if you make like within the 2 minute warning, it's like, oh, this ref made a silly call. That was kind of like a bullshit call or like a really soft call, and you don't booth review it because they claim to booth review every call. But I feel like if it's too close to tell, they just give it to the ref so they don't prove wrong.
Hmm.
And it's just like, yeah, and then it just gets quiet, and no one gets happy.
Yes. My more extreme one is I think you should only have to have 1 foot in bounds, but that one is a little that one's a little spicier.
That's a little.
I don't know. I just think it's weird. Yeah. Well, it's like the aluminum bat thing in
Yeah,
baseball. It's weird that we arbitrarily have a different system in
than
college and
yeah,
the professional sports.
I agree to that actually. I
Like, if college is supposed to prepare you for the
Yeah.
job you're getting, and we've openly admitted now athletes are getting paid, by transitive property, should we not make college rules exactly the same as the NFL's,
Yeah.
or at least as close as possible?
I feel like the only like discrepancy is technically speaking, they don't have to go to the NFL. They could go to the CFL and UFL and all those other bullshits. But I agree. At this point, it's clearly that the college scene is just a farm for the big leagues. Make the rules the exact same thing. Make them play under the same rules. That's why, like, because you see a lot of rookies do things, and it's like this would count in college because it's their habit from the last 3 or like 2 to 5 years.
Mhm.
That's just what they're
Incidentally, the amount of times I've heard 7th-year senior
Yeah.
this year, hell, no more. I want the
Oh,
transfer
like the
part.
guy-
You should, yeah,
The guy,
5 years max.
yeah, like the guy who went to high school. I think he graduated high school the same year as Trevor Lawrence and is still in high school
Yes.
or college.
Like, it's no,
Stop.
disgusting,
Just
awful
stop.
behavior.
I'd say you're wasting so much money, but you're getting scholarships. But still, stop. Like, what is your degree now? Are you getting your doctorate? Like,
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Like, again, I love college too. College was a great time. It's,
it was
again,
fantastic.
it's, but like, you gotta grow. You can't stay in Neverland forever, kid.
Mhm.
If you want, like, if it's for the sense of community, join a book club and vote for people who will make walkable cities. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, the other question I just had is, who would you be most afraid of making the wild card? Like, what's the one team where you see them winning and you're just like, fuck, no, stay out.
I tried to go for a team that wasn't confirmed to be in yet, but still has a chance, and I went with Tampa Bay.
Great pick.
Outside of last year's whole scenario with them and the Eagles, I feel like they still have that scrappy frat boy energy that could be a killer.
Yes. Again, like, I've come to the conclusion that Baker Mayfield's a good enough quarterback, and it's now that they can control the line of scrimmage and actually run the ball. It's like good enough quarterback can run the ball, good defense, elite receiver. It's just like, again, they are a team that's better than their record is going to indicate, which is always the most annoying thing to endure in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, it's interesting and kind of a crapshoot of how it could be.
Well, see, mine's lazier because I picked a team that's already in the playoffs, the Chargers. Again, I was trying to figure out what thing I fear most in a team. Again,
I think they can pull an upset city or two out of their pocket. Whoever is, I think whoever wins the North, AFC North specifically, is going to get the 3 seed, and I believe their other ones, and I believe the Chargers are going to get the 6 seed. If projections continue the way they're going, we'll say
yes, but yes,
So
because it's like
that 3 seed.
Oh,
I was gonna say that 3 seed against them, I feel like is going to have a secret threat.
Yes, because it's again the thing I fear the most is an elite quarterback, and like Herbert has looked so good. Like again, in terms of like him and Lawrence, these two guys who we keep saying no, 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 guys, they're good. Look at the analytics. He is finally starting to step up to the plate and be like, no, he actually is that good. He looks great. Like he's slinging the ball. He looks confident. He looks like much more of a leader. And it's like the things I'm afraid of are teams that can absolutely control the line of scrimmage. I still have nightmares about the Bengals pushing us around the playoffs and elite quarterbacks. Because on any given day, if you have one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league, they can just go on a heater and nothing else about the game matters. You might as well have not had any of the other players show up because that quarterback is just going to steal your heart out. And yeah, I do not want to face that come playoff time.
Yeah,
Shall we move on to next week?
we shall. Alrighty.
All right. So more Saturday games, which are actively happening right now. Yippee! Woohoo! Yeah! Christmas, just a week, happened already. Yippee! Ow, that hurt to say.
Too much
Needle.
football still.
Yeah, I'm getting my voice back, which is good, but I'm still manic. Yeah, it's I don't know why they insist upon this. It's just spite at this point, just to hurt me. But we do have a couple big games with possible playoff implications.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas City is playing Pittsburgh, an interesting matchup. Baltimore is playing Houston. Oh, right, these ones happened
These
because it
already
was
happened. Yeah,
Christmas.
they played on Christmas.
Uh,
They have.
we'll cover those ones in about a couple days. Atlanta at Washington, a very interesting matchup. If Atlanta can hold on and win the division,
That's Sunday night
I think they are
football.
teams. Really? Oh, that's actually a good
And you
game
know
in terms
what?
of like teams whose strengths and weaknesses match up really well.
Yeah. I think it's going to be the best game of the week? No. But I don't hate it.
Mhm.
I just don't hate it. I think that's like,
I agree.
I think it would be better in a Monday night or Thursday night slot, but the last 2 weeks of football have just been so stupidly much.
Dense. I agree. And then Green Bay, Minnesota, which actually has a lot of huge implications on seeding and just like the state of the NFC race.
No,
It feels like a one-horse race between, or a two-horse race between the Eagles and Lions, but
Yeah.
the two North teams could be usurpers.
Yeah, if the Lions win and Green Bay wins, I think that's pretty much guaranteed they get the number one and takes Minnesota out of the running. But if Minnesota wins and the Lions win, or they both lose, like we previously said,
Mhm.
it's gonna be a Week 18 number one seed situation, which I am hyped for.
Yes. Do you want to? Well, actually, that leads you right into your "Don't
Yeah,
Sleep
that's
On"
that's
game.
my
Do you
don't
want
sleep
to
on
cover
game.
it?
No, I
Yes.
feel like I've discussed it enough. It's literally the only reason that this is that game is it's a 4:15 or 4:25 game,
Right.
which there's only two 4 o'clock games this week because there's Saturday football. Stop, just
Yes. No. And
stop.
that's why I was
I
having
hate
trouble.
that.
Yeah, it's a part of why I was having trouble with my my pick because I'm like all the games are on prime time, so I don't fucking know. Indianapolis, New York.
Yeah, the don't sleep on game. It's a perfect system where you're the game you want to see the most, like the best game of the week, is going to be Sunday night, and then your other two games are going to be your Monday night game and your Thursday night game. So you have like a kind of a 1, 2, 3 seating situation going on with those games. But with these Wednesday games, these Thursday or these Saturday games where they're doing 3 games, where half the time they're not even a good game, it just it wastes these teams' time slots, and like it puts sure it gets to show off more teams in prime time and like gets more attention per team, but it makes these other games look kind of like there's 2 games at 4 o'clock.
Right.
Like, am I gonna watch Red Zone of these two going back and forth? Yes, but
Yeah. Like I
just
don't know,
because it's their
man.
whole thing. But like the Falcons Commanders, like because it's like if it was up to me, I wouldn't delegate them out of the Sunday night slot because they don't deserve it. I would delegate them out because Packers Vikings, in my opinion, deserves it more. If
Mhm.
it was, but no other matchup at least that hasn't happened already yet, like the for Sundays, tickles my fancy like that game. Like would be the better matchup than Falcons, or it would be Packers Vikings 1, Falcons Commanders 2, which makes that Falcons Commanders game a primo Monday night or Thursday night game if it had a normal week structure. But it
Right.
doesn't. And I hate it.
I agree. This sucks. But yeah, I'm going Indianapolis because like they did have a track to the playoffs and kind of blew it on that Jonathan Taylor fumble. He did make up for it with like a 160-yard game this week, but they do need this win. They're not done yet. They're not cooked.
They're not out
It's
yet.
a very labyrinthine process, but they still have a shot.
Let's see. If they, I think if they win, that makes them 8-8. And who's their final competitor? Jaguars are the final week.
Which they lost a chance to go to the playoffs with Carson Wentz on that.
Yeah, ending 9-8, like theoretically, if they win out, ending 9-8, and things drop down to their favor, like Broncos have like lose out to 8, and Bengals don't, like Bengals lose out. It's a possibility they have a legitimate chance to get that last seed. But I like the odds. Like everything needs to go in their favor. Broncos and Bengals each have one game, and Broncos are against Kansas City. Bengals are against the Chiefs. They're both against tough competitors, so they might get a bounce in their favor with it because they have the Giants and the Jaguars, arguably two of the worst teams of the season. So they might make a last second push for that 7 seed. They'll probably get rinsed by whoever they first play, but
yes,
they're
the one team where I'm like, yeah, whoever's the 2 seed, it's fine.
Yeah, and honestly though, with the Texans already won the division, so they're already in. But yeah, they could.
And the Giants, yeah, this game, I was struggling for this one, especially because for me it's more the interest of like, did the Giants get embarrassed again? Because this is multiple back-to-back embarrassments leading to a final matchup with the Eagles where Barkley might just blast past the all-time record. And then everyone's fired. Then it actually is like a purge.
If the Eagles were still in that competition for the number 1 overall seed at that point, I would say they're just gonna like put everyone in. I don't want to make that guarantee for them against the Giants because they already have their seeding. The Giants are kind of a hot pile of garbage. They might just tell Saquon to run up and down the field. That's it. That might be their only thing they pull, just so he gets for him to break his own record in front of Giants fans at the Link, and to just break get his own personal best, break the records. I think that's all they're going to do with Saquon in that week, because they're going to try and play it safe, and they're not going to try. If the Eagles beat the Cowboys this upcoming week, the Giants game is going to be more or less we're going to be playing for with backups and shit.
Right.
Keep the starters warm, but only use backups, and pray something doesn't fall where we have to face. Actually, we already beat the lower two, the theoretical 6 and 7 seeds of the Commanders and Packers this season. But it's a matter of if we could do it again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Agreed. Shall I send us home this time?
Do it.
Well, folks, Christmas is over. We're in that weird liminal space between Christmas and New Year's, which adds to the confusion of what week of the football season it actually is. But as we have that final countdown, the ball drops and champagne is shot, there really is only one thing left to get us through these last couple cold months of the year. And that, my friends, is some playoff fucking football. So you better strap on your leather heads, grit your teeth,
and be ready for the most intense 4 weeks of football you're going to see. God blessing. Good luck.